I was challenged by a friend on TikTok to create something with a purple background. I didn't want to use only purple in this project, so I first started off by creating a project swatch and decided on using complementary colors to the color purple that I wanted to use. So I started this project by using Dina Wakley's Elephant. I'll make a list of everything used in the description below. The second color is Dina Wakley's Sedona. These two are acrylic paints. Do you ever get the white background anxiety? A lot of times I hinder my success in projects when I think too much about the white background. So this one, I just wanted to jump straight into it and at least get some ink down. So you'll see me stippling the sponge at first, and then I go straight into and blending in the colors and wiping the orange, the Sedona, in. I'm not focused on the outcome at this moment. I'm only focused on busting up the white background and waiting to see what comes to me while I'm creating the background paper. Because at this point, I have a general idea on what I want to do and what stencils I want to use, but I don't really know what order I want to use them in. So this is me just wiping the ink as much as I can off of the sponge and busting up that white background. I try to prepare as much as possible to keep things within visual sight on my desk, so I'm keeping the flow of creativity going. So this one, I'm mixing the gesso with the bottle of RIT dye, and you'll see me realizing that it's not as liquidy as I thought it was down in the inside, and there's nothing that came out. So now I'm improvising by sticking the spatula straight inside and gathering up as much ink as I can, and I'll mix it right here on this makeshift palette, this acetate paper. I keep almost everything from wrapping, especially this kind of paper. It's quick with blending, and once it gets too grubby, I just throw it away. It's just that easy. But I'm mixing this to get the desired shade of purple. I want a little bit more, but I've realized there was no budging with that, and I did not want to stick the dirty palette knife inside. So I'm just blending on this makeshift palette here. Because I'm not classically trained, this is all intuitive work. I am kind of asking myself, does it make me feel happy putting this ink here or putting this paint here? And that's typically how I approach my art projects. I am using techniques that I've found along the way and some that I remember from school projects, but for the most part, this is all intuitive. And this is me listening to what people will call their inner child and what makes me happy. If I do this, will this make me happy? And there's always some happy mistakes and some mistakes that I could improve upon, but if you don't get it out, you will never know. So I am just creating texture on the page and putting it in a random fashion that seems really random, but it actually is, to me, visually pleasing and balanced the way I would like the project to be balanced. I really wish I repeated this technique on another piece of the project. You'll see me skip to the left side of this work, and I put the ink down, put the gesso and ink down, but what I did not do was follow that same pattern, and partially because, as you can see, I'm running out and I'm using up every last drop here. But I could have, now looking back at it, I could have taken some more of the work that I built up at the bottom here and put it where I just did those lines. I could have taken some of this right here and put it in that corner, but actually the work created itself, and I'm looking at it now on the playback, but that doesn't mean that I'm not happy with the work. I am really happy with what I did. in how the project came out. So because I like to prep in advance, I pulled out some stencils that I wanted to use in this. And of course I didn't use every stencil that I pulled out, but this is the stencil that I wanted to use with that Sedona. I pulled out the ink Harvest Orange and realized it was too similar to Sedona, so I did not even use it. So I ended up only using Dina Wakley's Sedona, and then I'm just blending in the ink. And what I found is, if of course throughout the time of me painting and using different projects, I realized that I can not go as hard on the ink, holding it in a tough way. I put the ink down, and then it's really heavy right here, and then I fade it up a little bit without using so much pressure. So I repeated this in other parts of the project here. And because I did not dry the gesso in between, this is still pretty wet. So I'm doing a wet test. Is it wet? Is it too wet? Will it get my hands too dirty while doing this? Is what I was testing for. But I did not care that the ink and the gesso would blend at this phase right here. In fact, I kind of wanted it to fade and blend into itself, because these colors are so on the opposite end of the spectrum. I wanted to do a little bit of blending in. So you can see me using the same technique on basically the north, south, east, and west of this project. As I get to this point, you can see me doing the lift test, and I'm only lifting to see how well this is blending, and it's doing exactly what I wanted it to do. Now, I'm new to this, so like I said, I don't have classic training. This is just a touch and go kind of situation where, does it feel right? Does this artwork kind of speak to me? Is this how I want to create? And I am learning along the way. And one of my goals is to continue to stretch myself past things that I've already created, and different color techniques and color theories, and using different mixed mediums to stretch myself and to grow creatively. So I am using the heavy and light techniques to blend the orange area into the purple areas, or just the orange into the orange here. I've used this heavy light technique on a few other projects that I've created. So that's how I know, being heavy on the ink here, and then blending and feathering it out. I'm just incorporating some techniques I've already seen. And this again is the lift test. Is this creating a mess on the other side of the stencils where I'm looking at? And as you also can see, I don't clean my stencils in between, and I know that's probably a faux pas in the art community. I can't slow down to, is this clean kind of thing. So yeah, you see there are some wet spots of the gesso here, and I'm just pushing them into other parts on the project. It'll be fine in the end. A TikTok friend contacted me and asked if I could share my process with her, and I was honest. I just do this stuff. I'm not classically trained, like I said. I'm just doing what feels good to me, and this is my attempt at challenging myself. That's the reason why I have the TikTok page. I wanted to challenge myself and meet like-minded people who are challenging themselves artistically, and to find community. That's the only reason why I have a TikTok page. So these videos that I'm posting on here and on Lemonade and TikTok it's just my attempt at trying to be creative and finding community of like-minded people. So I'm using the roller to set the gesso and to create that same pattern with the purple ink as I did with the orange, and you can see it in the 2 spots that I used it. I was successful at bringing a lot of that same element into the purple ink with the gesso. I decided to use the FW's Purple Lake. This is 437 Purple Lake. I decided to use that with the giraffe stencil here. And as you notice, I did not clean this brush in between. My goal is to continue to use other colors and kind of melt the colors together. So this is, you can still see a lot of the Sedona on this as I'm blending. And I want that to kind of melt the colors together, and making sure that I'm finishing this pattern and repeating the pattern, excuse me, throughout this work here. I'm trying to liberally apply this in the middle because I realize that this is heavy on the orange and the challenge was purple. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm leaving enough room to melt in the purple and other elements of purple. I'm still using a lot of purple inks, and I still have other inks to go to melt this together. But this is my attempt at blending in a lot of those white spots. As you can see a lot of it throughout the page here. And I'm just using Sedona mixed in still without cleaning that with the purple lake here, and I'm repeating the pattern, and I want to make sure that I go outside of the stencil page or the stencil area. So you'll see I'll line it up at the top and go over that edge. This is more of the Dina Wakley's elephant, and I realized I started to lose a lot of the elephant color in the work just by building up more color. So I'm just replacing a lot of that gray, that elephant color on the work at the bottom, and then you'll see me use a stencil to bring in a lot more of that color, to lay it on top of the purple instead of having the color be underneath it. So I'm just getting more product and then using that same brush without cleaning it into this gray here, and you'll see the colors kind of blend together when I start to work this in. So I'm really liberally applying that at the top corner, and then I start to scrub the purple in. I want to lift a lot of that color that's inside the brush on the page. You can see that there. This is the other spot that I'm using more of that elephant color in to blend out a lot of that purple and kind of melt those two purples together. here I'm using Unfettered Flight 403. This is from Ferris wheel press to do my signature 3 lines. This has so many flecks in it, and this has orange, pinks, and purple and blue, but it's primarily blue. I'm using the thread and distressed ink, and this is Mica stain in the color Fortune Teller, to just put down a little bit more of the purple ink and use the splatters, but I did not want to go heavy on that, so I'm using this ink pad here, or this paper pad here, to soak up some of that ink. This was a little liberal on that heavy end when I sprayed the first 2, so then I decided just to use the ink and just kind of push some of that ink into the work here. And it would not be me if I did not include the music notes in this work. I typically like to include music notes in a lot of my work that I do, because music is in every aspect of my life. So I'm using 2480 Royal Gold. This is from Metallic. This is a regular metallic gold color that I don't even know this company. It's just a typical regular gold. And I hope I was good enough in explaining my process, but here's the final project. Thank you for watching.